AskReddit by Stevescent. What is the worst Apple product you've ever owned? The butterfly keyboard on the 2015 Apple MacBook. I worked in repair at that time. It was astonishing. Also, the screws they used to keep those keyboards in were basically made of sand. If I replaced your keyboard, your new one had half as many screws because the originals would disintegrate. The Lightning to 3.5 dongles fail at an alarming rate. I put several layers of heat shrink on mine to provide support. You'll want it going all the way from one connector to the other. And make sure it goes up onto the plastic of both connectors, otherwise it's pointless. I've had the same one for 3 years now. iTunes. iTunes feels like they are trying to make it suck. And you can't load an iPod without it, at least not any way I've found. The only Apple product I ever owned was an iPod. Absolutely amazing hardware, but iTunes is the absolute worst software ever. I remember when the iPod came out it was also alien to me, and then as it evolved, with each step they made it easier, which made me realize how difficult it was before. So I feel like my memory of iTunes being bad is just me realizing how much better they made it over time. Should also add that I've not used it in about 10 years now, though. That round mouse. Worst ergonomic design ever. Hated that fucking urinal cake. Magic mouse. The puck was worse. Red Delicious. They are just mealy, tasteless terrible apples. Gotta try a Cosmic Crisp. iPod socks. Nobody has feet that small. Truth, I bought a pack of 5 iPod socks and they've lasted longer than every iPod I've ever owned. I use one to carry my magic mouse. Where the other for went I have no clue. Performer 5200, https://lowendmac.com/performer-5200/closed bracket dart. Absolute garbage. They crippled it in all kinds of ridiculous ways, from not enough VRAM to 32-bit bus for a 64-bit processor to no hardware handshake on the serial port. To make the networking stable you had to add an empty SCSI card. And to top it off they shipped it with a faulty monitor wire and refused to acknowledge it until they issued a recall. Basically every iPod in the early 2000s when you had a Windows PC, the iPods themselves were fine, but iTunes was just always this frustrating pain to use on Windows. Looking at how Apple can be now with cross-platform stuff, I definitely wonder if it was intentionally so bad on Windows. Had the opposite of the desired effect on me if that was the case though, just turned me into a bit of an Apple hater, even if that's not really fair. It was basically cancer for PCs. Red Delicious. Worst Apple ever. Red Delicious Apple is the perfect two truths and a lie example. Any cable that moves. Headphones, chargers, USB cables, they all fray and break. I just started using electrical tape to reinforce right away. I don't like the AirPods. They fall out of my ears for any slight movement. Get bigger ear pads for it. Very easy to find some on Amazon. Made a huge difference for me. An Intel Touch Bar Mac. It was a work machine. I upgraded from a MacBook Air, and though going from a non-retina to a retina screen was nice, the rest of the machine was garbage. It was slower, the battery life was embarrassingly bad, tons of RAM but would bog down super easily, noisy, and that butterfly keyboard should have never gotten past QA. Touch bar was so useless. My name tag holder. Used to work at one of their retail stores and the plastic frame would break all the time. Absolute trash. Newton. It's probably still in a drawer somewhere. Eat up Martin. The magic mouse that can't be used while it's charging because the port is underneath it. The wired earphones. Every time I would buy a product, the same shitty earphones that sound crap and fall out every 5 seconds. Waste of metal and plastic. AirPods Pro 2. Some firmware update ruined ANC. If I have my AC on my left side, the left pod ANC starts to dysfunction lightly, as if it lightly increased a level of transparency mode. If it's on my right side, it'll happen with the right pod. The same for any fans and sources of constant humming noises. If I change between modes or take the pod out and put it in my ear again, it starts working again until some minutes later the same happens. It's annoying as hell. 2 friends of mine who have the same version of AirPods report exactly the same thing. This didn't happen in the past. It gives me the impression that those infamous firmware updates which allegedly reduced ANC effectiveness actually were the starting point of this problem. I remember pointing out that an update seemed to mess up the noise cancelling of my AirPods and being downvoted to hell. I knew I wasn't crazy. Podcasts app absolutely horrendous to navigate. iPhone 6s. First gen AirPods. I gone back to using the wired headphones after my left AirPod kept dying. Apple Music is a joke compared to the simplicity of iTunes. Having to sync libraries to access certain streaming functions is nonsense and completely disregards that significant parts of my music library are my own music and sound projects. I have a lot of rare music that no streaming service will carry and I don't need everything in AAC. Won't show me my iPhone because it's open in another window? Then take me there. 2 search windows? And why are playlists suddenly this useless new layout? Even the name music is a headache. Where are my music files now kept? Inside a folder called music, inside a folder called media, inside another folder called music, inside another folder called music. Yep. The original iTunes back in the Steve Jobs era was genius because of its simplicity. Importing music was easy, buying music was easy, transferring it to a device was easy. Now, I'm still struggling to figure out how to get my home movies on my Apple TV. It won't connect to my computer library for whatever reason. I hate it. I miss the old days where any idiot could figure it out. Saying this as a tech idiot who did figure it out. iPhone 5C. The 5C was fine, but people hated it because for whatever reason they bought the 8GB model. 2017 MVP, got a fully spec'd 13-inch. I spent more on that than any other computer I've ever bought. It was slow within a year, the battery was terrible and the touch bar was never really a thing. I traded it in for a base M1 Mac Mini which has been 100x's better.